Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Everything that I have been telling you, ladies and gentlemen, is taking place. First and foremost, before the Durham probe special counsel, which just found out that Madam Secretary, it was at the center of all of this, which is I wrote about this in the Federalist. You can go to H.A. Goodman Federalist. Just Google H.A. Goodman and Federalist. You will see one of the articles that Rush Limbaugh, when he was alive, shared on his radio show 2 days in a row. And it's an article about the Clinton campaign being at the epicenter of all of this. So I was writing about this in 2019. You can go to hagoodman.com and read my writing there in the Hill, Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, the Federalist, other publications. I wrote in the Federalist also that we're going to have a devastating stock market crash. I wrote that in October of 2021. We are now seeing inflation that's runaway, interest rate increases. So the monetary stimulus that's coming to an end. The quantitative tightening is going to take place. You're going to have interest rate increases, probably 6 to 7 this year. You're going to have oil prices we'll get to are approaching $100 per barrel. Consumer sentiment is at a decade low, excuse me. We have geopolitical nightmares with Russia and Ukraine, and possibly with Taiwan as well. What I've been saying is that with Taiwan as well, and China. So we have all of these problems. Hit subscribe to this channel right now to my super chat. Thank you. We're going to have a stock market crash, and we're already seeing it in slow motion, but I predicted the financial catastrophe that we're seeing right now. We're heading into a recession, and I talked about that, the 2 to 3,000 point drops we will see in the Dow, unfortunately. And I predicted all of that in my Federalist article last October. Eric, Luke, thank you so very, very much. JG, hello. Everybody here, hello. Thank you so much. To my super chat, if you want to support my live streams, if you enjoy these live streams, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. Let's get started. So, we're going to talk about tonight not just the latest developments in the Durham probe, where John Ratcliffe, the former director of national intelligence, predicts that more people are going to get indicted. What did I say to you? I said, ladies and gentlemen, the worse it gets economic in terms of the economy, and I don't want people to lose money. I don't care if you're I don't care if you're a liberal, Democrat, progressive, socialist, whatever, which is really interesting. I guess later we can talk about one of my articles in the Huffington Post is being discussed by a great many people on the far left. And it's very interesting because it's just very interesting. I don't exactly know why. What I was trying, I'll talk about it a little later. But I was on the left my whole life. Born to raise hogs. Thank you so very much. Starting it off, Luke and Eric, thank you so much for being amazing moderators. Born to raise hogs, thank you so much. Starting it off to the super chat. I really appreciate your support on these live streams. Born to raise hogs, thank you. I hope all is well. We're going to talk about the financial catastrophe that I predicted in the Federalist, the stock market crash, more people are entering poverty because of the policies of the Democratic Party. Okay? It's interesting. People didn't like Trump on the left, but we had record low unemployment, record low Black and Latino unemployment. Lord. Sorry about the buffering, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about the buffering. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, ladies and gentlemen? Born to raise hogs, thank you again. So kind of you. Can you hear me now? People didn't like Trump, but we had a great economy. We had record low unemployment, record low Black and Latino unemployment. Unemployment went up last, in terms of the job numbers this month. Unemployment actually went up. Okay, we have more people entering poverty, than ever before. That's directly because Democrats and the morally superior among us experts and the highly educated, wonderful bureaucrats said you had to end economic activity. End economic activity for your own good. And we listened to, or the media and the Democratic Party pushed to end economic activity. We are now experiencing everything from runaway and rampant inflation to an increase in unemployment to oil prices and fossil fuels at all-time highs. Oil is now approaching $100 per barrel. It's going to get to over $147 per barrel. It's all-time high. Probably a lot closer to $200 a barrel. The global economies, including our own, we are heading into a recession. We were never close to a recession with Trump. So, to people on the far left, number one, Trump never started an intervention or prolonged military engagement. We never intervened in another country with Trump. President Obama had Libya. Bush had a number of countries. And mashed potato brains Biden botched the Doha Agreement, which was negotiated by President Trump, to remove Americans. That's why the Lincoln Project opposed Trump. So, to the far left, who is perhaps enjoying my writing, and basically amused by what I used to write, which most of it I still agree with and adhere to, they should also respectfully understand that Trump was the least hawkish and the least militant and opposed by the Lincoln Project. The Lincoln Project did not oppose Bush. They were from the Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld. They were Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld foreign policy. And the Lincoln Project now promotes the Democratic Party. So to the far left reading my writing, they should understand that I oppose anyone linked to the Lincoln Project or Bill Kristol or anyone who wants to intervene in other countries or start never-ending counterinsurgency quagmires, conflicts, and wars. This is why I like Tulsi Gabbard, I like President Trump, I like anyone, Rand Paul, anyone who opposes never-ending military conflict. That's the most important thing for me. Now, when I was saying that I would rather have had Bernie Sanders than Clinton in 2015, 2016, he was the less militant of the two, the less hawkish. In terms of foreign policy, his foreign policy was better, in my view. Okay, now I realize that Bernie Sanders would never have done anything differently than Clinton, because he would have simply been told what to do by the Democratic Party. They cheated him. They completely railroaded him in their own primaries. He said nothing. Okay, Trump was opposed and set up and framed by everyone who wanted a more militant foreign policy. That's really what it comes down to, all right? And what are we seeing now with Russia and Ukraine? It's taking place under Biden's watch. So, I mean, we might get to an article that people are talking about. It's funny. Sometimes I'll type in my name. I don't have Twitter. I do not have Twitter. I do not have Facebook. I don't have Instagram or anything like that. But it's really interesting. JG, Eric, Born to Raise Hogs, everybody here. I'll type in my name on Twitter just to see what people are saying. Okay, and for some reason they're addressing one article that I wrote, and they're agreeing with it, which is great, fantastic. But I don't think they understand the context of why I wrote the article. So maybe I'll address that later on tonight. But really quickly, what did I say, ladies and gentlemen? Did I not tell you that the more we find the economic and political environment, when inflation, when oil prices, when consumer sentiment take a turn for the worse, you're going to see an emphasis on indictments by John Durham. Didn't I say that, ladies and gentlemen? I almost called it like the second it happened. I said, watch. Unfortunately, the country is going to descend into a terrible financial catastrophe. As I beg for super chat, Born to Raise Hogs, thank you so much. I also want to tell everybody here, Born to Raise Hogs, everyone here, Eric, Luke, JG, everyone here, save your money every single month, okay? Save your money every single month, people. Open up a savings account. I understand people say, well, you know what, there's inflation and, the dollar isn't worth what it was. There's also deflation. You're also going to, unfortunately, get things half off. Save your money every month because we are not officially into a recession yet, but we will be. And the one thing that will correlate with all of that is, like I said, the Durham probe indictments. But we're going to, in a couple of minutes, we're going to hear John Brennan. Okay, John Brennan. We're going to hear James Comey. We could maybe hear Strzok again with him getting Gomerized. Who knows? But we're going to hear all of the nonsense. The entire Trump-Russia completely fabricated myth. You couldn't find a person less of an authoritarian than Trump. Why? Because where is there an authoritarian in the history of mankind that was set up and framed by media, by his own intelligence services, and where his people, especially like everyone within the populace, enjoyed a record-breaking economy? And they say that he demonized certain people. President Trump said things that he shouldn't have said, or, this was during the campaign. But other than that, his actions prove that he wasn't bigoted. He allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, than any president ever, and made the funding permanent. He presided over the Abraham Accords, the Doha Agreement, which reversed U.S. foreign policy, brought Americans home, and he wasn't in office when the agreement stated that we needed to leave. That was May 1st, 2021. It was a May 1st, 2021 withdrawal. VC Lucky, thank you. So he wasn't in office then. Diane Stewart, I wish I could send you more than $10. Diane, thank you so much. Just you watching, Diane, is very, very kind of you. Thank you so much. Just you watching and enjoying this, and it just means a lot to me, and I thank you so much for your support. Diane, thank you. Thank you so very much. Very, very, very kind of you. To my super chat, thank you so very, very much. Diane, thank you. So, Trump was not an authoritarian. Okay, he didn't care what you think. The people going after Joe Rogan want any opposing viewpoint silenced. They don't want discussion or debate or discourse. They want people silenced. That's what authoritarians do. Trump doesn't care what you eat, what you say, what you do with your life. Okay? He doesn't really care at all. That's not what an authoritarian is about. Okay? He never had control of his intelligence services, really. They were the ones going after him. He was being investigated because of a lie perpetuated by his direct political rivals. So how on earth was he an authoritarian? I mean, it's pretty unbelievable how They say he's an authoritarian. Well, name me a tyrant in history who didn't have full control of media and full control of his government and intelligence agencies. Diane, thank you. Born and raised, thank you. Well, let's go ahead right now, really quickly. Catherine Herridge, she is fantastic. CBS News. Heavily redacted, Durham heavily redacted, still relevant 16 months after first declassified by then John Radcliffe. After new special counsel filing fall 2016, Central Intelligence investigative referral, Trump, okay, they're not Clinton emails. Look, I have been saying to everybody, it was pretty obvious. By the way, I think Clinton's going to run in 2024. That's my prediction. I'm telling you. I told you. I've been on a roll lately. I know that people say, well, no, it hasn't really crashed yet. It's like, well, you know what? Nobody was talking about a stock market crash before I was. At least not in politics. Yes, there were people, obviously Jeremy Grantham, Michael Burry. No. I'm talking about in politics, in the little political sphere that I'm in. People weren't talking. Certainly not AOC. Certainly not Ted Cruz. Certainly not you know. So I told people. I said, look, we're going to have a devastating stock market crash, and we're seeing the beginning of it. I said the Durham probe indictments are going to increase alongside a dwindling economy, and we're seeing that right now. We're probably, well, we already technically got into a nuclear confrontation. Mashed potato brains outdid himself again, and we had a nuclear sub chased away by the Russian Navy. So this is all happening right now in real time. Okay, and I've been saying from day one that he was set up by Clinton and the DNC. Now, I do think that Clinton's going to run again. I really do. And I hope and I pray. And I know you're going to think, and JG, don't make me put another beautiful picture of Madam Secretary. You know what? That's it. That's it. Had enough. That's what I want everyone here to enjoy. Okay? Enjoy. This is for you, JG, Eric, everybody here. Luke, it's all for you. Enjoy the beauty. Diane, born and raised. Thank you to my super chat. This is for you. I swear to you, I pray to God that Hillary runs again, because this has to happen. It's the Goodman prophecy. It has to happen. Why? Why? Too much has been done already because Madam Secretary lost. Now we have to get. This is like Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard too, Ali Frazier too, Celtics Lakers. Okay, look, we need another rematch. You know what? This is okay. Clinton must run again. First of all, she would make a much better president than Biden. I'm going to vote for Trump. I know that people are horrified with me saying all of this. I'm voting for President Trump. Okay? But they went ahead, railroaded Bernie Sanders. He fell in line. He didn't even say a word. Okay? This is not right. At least Trump said, if you cheat me, I'm going to tear down the whole Republican Party. Okay? Clinton has to run again. Joe, the bill, ABC TV, H.H. Trump to win in 2024. Yep, I want that. I want that. No, no alternative. Thank you. I was 4 years too late. Doomerson, the bill, ABC TV. Thank you, the bill. Thank you. PC Lucky. It has to happen. Okay? I swear to God, I want Clinton to run again because, the country deserves this. And the Democratic Party deserves this. But also, Hillary would actually make a better president than Biden. I don't think we would have the problems that we have, even though I would, out of a million, if you gave me a million times to vote between Trump and Clinton, I would vote Trump a million times over I would vote Trump a million times over Hillary. But if you said Biden, Hillary, I think Hillary Clinton is a much better candidate for the Democratic Party, considering what Biden has done. Mashed potato brains he's almost as bad as George W. Bush, who was the worst president of all time. George W. Bush is the worst president of all time. At least Hillary Clinton wouldn't listen to her advisors, or would have some kind of leadership to where she would have a vision of what she wanted. But all of this was done because Madam Secretary did not win. And there's too much angst in our political system. There needs to be some kind of, I don't know, like some kind of, we have to revisit the ghosts of our past, which is 2016. We need to address what happened. And the only way to truly address what happened is one more time. Do it to me one more time. Just give me one more chance, this heart of mine. Lionel Richie, do it to me one more time. We need Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump again, so I could not only be vindicated. You want a different picture? This is a beautiful picture. This is a beautiful picture. What's that, JG? You wanted a different picture? Okay. Okay, look. Why not? She looks beautiful here. Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, it's fantastic. I told people, I said Clinton could not defeat Trump, and I was the Grinch who stole Christmas. I was, oh my God. What was I? I was like, a two Brutus. My God Almighty. My God. The vitriol I received. Unbelievable. Luke St. Martin, for the love of all things. Only take it down. I will in a second. Luke, thank you for being an amazing moderator. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I will take this down. That's a nice. I took down the original. This is a nice photo. Luke, thank you so much for being such a great moderator. Eric and Luke are the two best moderators in all of YouTube. I just thank you both so much for your just how wonderful you are, both of you. But I told everyone, and I was met with such vitriol. And those people now pretend that they want somebody different. No, 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 no. You have to go back to 2016. Nothing has ever changed. Since 2016, we're still stuck in a time warp. No, no, no. We have to revisit it. And we need another rematch between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And may the best person win again. And look, she might become president. Okay? Because all of those people on the left who were like, oh, never vote for Hillary. No, no, no. They will. They'll fall in line. They'll fall in line. And it has to happen. I mean, she'd make a better president than Biden, a much better president. But it wouldn't be good for the country. I think Trump is needed. I think that we need President Trump back. We need an economy that works and functions. We need an emphasis on economic growth. We need a reversal of U.S. foreign policy that Trump um, implemented. Now we're back to the same interventionist, the same foreign policy that 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 Democrats and never Trump Republicans pushed. So Luke St. Martin, thank you so very, very much. We need Hillary versus Trump again. We need that to take place. But Luke St. Martin, thank you so very, very, very much. We'll get back to that later. We'll get back to that later. But it all started with Clinton. I mean, all of this started with Clinton setting up and framing Trump through the DNC, through loyalists like James Comey and John Brennan and Clapper and McCabe and Strzok and Sussman and Kleinsmith. This is all taking place. We all knew this also 2 years ago. We knew all of this. I mean, and this is the thing. It's like the same people who dislike Trump, they're okay with all. They're the ones, like the far left in the country, are the ones who, oftentimes, aligned with John Brennan, aligned with James Clapper. The liberal Democrats are for sure. It used to be that liberals were not, well, or liberal activists, let's say, weren't so closely aligned, weren't aligned at all with intelligence services, but they are now. So John Radcliffe, newly declassified records, DNI Radcliffe reveals September 2016 investigative referral to FBI's Comey. Peter Strzok, while heavily redacted, intel alleged third-party discussion of HRC approved plan concerning candidate Trump. They all were in on it. And what I was telling you, if he already put away a top FBI official in Boston, John Durham already put away he already sent to prison a top FBI official in Boston because this FBI official was working with criminal organizations in Boston. And he wasn't just working, they weren't just informants, he became essentially part of the criminal organization. Herschel Ballard! Herschel, thank you so very, very much. To my super chat, thank you. Herschel Ballard, thank you. So, Herschel, thank you so much, always. Thank you so very much, always. So they set up Trump and framed him. Thank you, Herschel. And if you look at Catherine Herridge, IG Horowitz 2019 FISA report found FBI debunked Alpha Blank claims in early 2017, but they still went ahead and investigated. The FBI investigated whether there were cyber links between Trump Organization and Alpha Bank, but concluded very early on there were no such links. So then why did they continue? They continued because they wanted Trump out. New filings. Tech executive and his associates exploited this arrangement by mining executive office of the president. So there you go. How do you have the office of the president? So the Oval Office was, they were siphoning information from the Oval Office, DNC traffic and other data. So this is a real problem, real issue to national security. What's going on here? What's going on here? I just want to, really quickly, are you serious? Okay. Let's go ahead and listen to, this is a HuffPost video where you can actually see John O'Brien, and you can hear John O'Brien admit they never had any evidence. Okay, this is an admission that they never had any evidence of Trump Russia. Never, ever, 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 ever did they have evidence. Okay, let's just make sure there's no echo. Echo, 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 echo.
Did you find direct evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Putin in Moscow while you were there?
Mr. Rooney, I never was an FBI agent. I never was a prosecutor, so I really don't do evidence. I do intelligence throughout the course of my career. As an intelligence professional, what we try to do is to make sure that we provide all.
So what does he say? I don't do evidence, I do intelligence. This is like the Alec Baldwin, you know, Central Intelligence Chief. I don't do evidence, I do intelligence. He just said, this is former, director John Brennan testifies on collusion with Russia. He just told the world he doesn't do evidence. He does intelligence. He's actually one of the most honest things he's ever said under oath. He just told the world. He just told the world. This is the only honest thing he's ever said. He just told the world the truth. He just told the world the truth. Check it out again. Check it out again.
Did you find direct evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Putin in Moscow while you were there?
Mr. Rooney, I never was an FBI agent. I never was a prosecutor, so I really don't do evidence. I do intelligence throughout the course of my career. As an intelligence professional, what we try to do is to make sure that we provide all relevant information to the Bureau if there is an investigation underway that they are looking into criminal activity. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I was convinced in the summer that the Russians were trying to interfere in the election. And they were very aggressive. It was a multifaceted effort. And I wanted to make sure that we were able to expose as much of that as possible.
But was there intelligence that said that the Trump campaign was colluding with Moscow during their campaign?
There was intelligence that the Russian intelligence services were actively involved in this effort, and having been involved in many counterintelligence.
So he admits that there was no evidence. He admits that there was no evidence. It's right there. He admits that there was no evidence. He admits there's no evidence. There was never any evidence that Trump worked with Russia. And it's completely irrelevant whether it is completely and utterly irrelevant whether Russia wanted to do anything in 2016. The accusation was that they were infiltrating Trump's campaign. All right? JG, I agree. The accusation is that Trump was working, through a debunked story now that got a Clinton attorney indicted, just recently by the Durham probe special counsel, or a whole bunch of absurd nonsense from the Steele dossier. All of this was made up and fabricated. He's telling the world right now it's called manure, bandini. There's other words for it, but it's called manure, which, by the way, fertilizer is up 200%. This economy is so bad, even crap is overpriced. Okay, but let's listen to this again.
And I wanted to make sure that we were able to expose as much of that as possible.
But was there intelligence that said that the Trump campaign was colluding with Moscow during their campaign?
There was intelligence that the Russian intelligence services were actively involved in this effort, and having been involved in many counterintelligence cases in the past, I know what the Russians try to do. They try to suborn individuals, and they try to get individuals, including U.S. persons, to act on their behalf either wittingly or unwittingly. And I was
So he's just saying a whole bunch of things to obfuscate and to muddy the waters. He knows very well that he can't back up the claim that Trump worked with Russia because it's a fabricated claim. It really doesn't matter if he thinks that other countries are trying to infiltrate or influence American voters. The accusation is a pretty specific, baseless claim that Trump worked with the Kremlin, was installed by the Kremlin. Saying that he benefited from Russian Facebook ads is completely irrelevant. That's like saying, well, which is what they do. They say, well, those are Kremlin talking points. Okay, guess what? You could make the same absurd allegation every single 4 years or 2 years or every single Senate or House or presidential contest. You can say, oh, this country, and pick a country, believes in this kind of foreign policy and wants this kind of economic policy. And oh, by the way, my political opponent happens to agree with this country. And oh, by the way, there's a Facebook ad that says that, that tries to promote that viewpoint. So therefore, as you can see, he benefited from an ideology that I oppose, or a viewpoint, or a paradigm of thinking, or whatever, policies that I oppose. So telling NATO members to pay more money for membership is a very valid, rational viewpoint. Saying that it correlates with the Kremlin, with what Putin wants, is completely irrational. It might, let's just say, you know what, we would never have left Vietnam. We would never have, just because Putin or Xi or any other competitor or adversary on the global stage wants a certain type of foreign policy or economic policy, that doesn't necessarily mean that opposing it is good for the United States of America. If, for example, Russia doesn't want us within certain regions of the world, that doesn't mean we need to be there. There's this like Pavlovian response from people on the left and also the Never Trump Republicans that we need to oppose and simply be as petulant as possible. We need to do everything, we need to do the opposite of whatever Putin says. Well, we have to first and foremost focus on what's good for the country. And a lot of Trump's policies, a lot of the things that he basically said, look, I don't care about renewing a Cold War. And he's basically said, look, I don't care if Ukraine joins NATO. But Biden and Democrats and Never Trump Republicans, they want Ukraine as part of NATO. This is what the problem, this is why we're experiencing this geopolitical crisis. This is why we're experiencing this right now. NATO has not helped the world in any way. There was a failed NATO intervention in Libya that destroyed a country. Now we're seeing, this was 10 years ago, around 10 years ago, now we're seeing the repercussions of, now we're seeing the repercussions of NATO wanting Ukraine into the alliance, or pretending to want Ukraine into the alliance. So it's a Cold War relic. And Russia has nuclear weapons, so what's the point? We're never going to get into a conventional military conflict with Russia, just like we wouldn't with the Soviet Union. So what's the point? But let's continue.
Worried by a number of the contacts that the Russians had with U.S. persons, and so therefore, by the time I left office on January 20th, I had unresolved questions in my mind as to whether or not the Russians had been successful in getting U.S. persons involved in the campaign or not.
Unresolved questions in his mind is not a reason to investigate an incoming president. Okay? He also helped disseminate a debunked dossier. So this man is lying through his teeth, but he's doing so. Look, they wanted a reason. Democrats for the past 5 years have been worshiping and they've revered government authority and experts and officials and bureaucrats because these people served as foils to Trump. Trump was a buffoon that needed to be, prevented from, harming the country. Meanwhile, we had an amazing economy. Hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs created. Record low unemployment. And we had inflation at less than 2%. It's now over 7.5% and rising. We had inflation at less than 2% with Trump in 2019. Okay? We had inflation at less than 2%. Okay? Inflation, ladies and gentlemen, was less than 2%. Less than 2%. We have runaway inflation now. And people like Brennan and Comey and Strzok and McCabe, well, listen to Comey right here. They never had any evidence that Trump worked with Russia or was installed by the Kremlin. It was a fantasy that they latched onto. They needed a pretext. They legitimized suspicion. They utilized suspicion to investigate and to create a special counsel and to demonize Trump for 4 years. They utilized suspicion. You can't investigate on just suspicion and baseless claims. You can't simply say, I don't trust you, and oh, by the way, someone purchased a document that said you did bad things. And combined with the fact that I don't trust you, every single government agency from the DOJ to the FBI, we're all going to investigate you. It doesn't work that way. Simply saying that the intelligence community assessment, which is a high to moderate confidence assessment, it's not an assessment based on any certainty or guarantees. Simply saying, I confirm that's a semantic ploy. It's a semantic game. This is like, you don't even have to take a philosophy of language course to realize what's going on. When Richard Burr of the Senate Intelligence Committee confirms the Brennan's assessment, a high confidence assessment, he is confirming a belief. So this is really kind of hilarious. Somebody on Twitter said, oh yeah, H.A. Goodman probably likes Michael Jordan over LeBron James. Yeah, Michael Jordan. I would take Michael Jordan over LeBron James. Yes. Okay. I think that's pretty logical. Also, I would take Kobe Bryant over LeBron James, even though I think LeBron James is great. I think he's fantastic. But I would take Kobe Bryant. I take Kobe. I take Magic Johnson. I would take Magic Johnson over LeBron. I would take Magic Johnson over a lot of people because I love Magic Johnson. But I would take Michael Jordan over LeBron. Well, why am I bringing this up? Because that's just my opinion. It's not. You can't confirm an opinion. You can't confirm an assessment. That's like when they say, well, reporting on the National Archives being flushed down the toilet has been confirmed as accurate. Well, the reporting was never the reporting was never the reporting was never accurate. The reporting was never confirmed. As my computer freezes up. Can you hear me, ladies and gentlemen? Can you hear me? So My computer froze up, so I can't do anything on this right now. JG, thank you. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Neil, thank you. All right, so, God. All right, good. Now it's working. All right, let's continue.
To work on their behalf, again, either in a witting or unwitting fashion. And so, therefore, I felt as though the FBI investigation was certainly well-founded and needed to look into those issues.
Did evidence exist of collusion, coordination, conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russian state actors at the time you learned of 2016 efforts?
I encountered and am aware of information and intelligence that revealed contacts and interactions between Russian officials and U.S. persons involved in the Trump campaign that I was concerned about because of known Russian efforts to suborn such individuals.
So he doesn't want to get caught in a perjury trap, and he doesn't want to commit. He's already committed perjury. Okay, the man already lied under oath. So did Clapper. Brennan already lied under oath. Okay, he did so when his organization engaged in surveillance of Dianne Feinstein's Senate panel investigating Bush-era activities, which we won't talk about on YouTube because of the guidelines. He already committed perjury. So he doesn't want to commit perjury again. So he's asked by Trey Gowdy, do you have any evidence that Trump worked with the Kremlin? Well, I don't have evidence. I don't have evidence. I don't. Not that I don't have evidence. I had a lot of suspicion. Known Russians were doing this and that, and the Russians were doing this and that, and the Russians were doing this and that, and it really concerned me, and so therefore I thought that the FBI was warranted. And media ate this up. Media ate this up. They loved it. They loved it. Oh my God, they loved it. They couldn't get enough of it. They couldn't get enough of it.
And it raised questions in my mind, again, whether or not the Russians were able to gain the cooperation of those individuals. I don't know whether or not such collusion, that's your term, such collusion existed. I don't know.
So the man says he doesn't know if collusion existed. This is May 23rd, 2017. Trump is in office barely, 3 months or 4 months or so. Okay? I don't know if collusion existed, but they investigated for 2 more years. So, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how, and this, there are people who call Trump an authoritarian. You have to be completely ignorant of history to think that Trump is the antithesis of an authoritarian. He was set up by people like Brennan. The Democratic Party, MSNBC, CNN, The Washington Post, The New York Times, John Brennan, James Comey, these people set up and framed Trump based on a lie. That's what authoritarians do. They want to silence dissent. They want to marginalize silence and disparage any political dissent or dialogue. And they view speech or rhetoric as an affront on democracy when that's the basis of any free society, okay? You're allowed to express your viewpoint. And I was always taught growing up, sticks and stones may break my bones, but bad words will never hurt me. And the Democrats and the left, far left, realize that they can't actually defeat conservatives or libertarians or, other liberals who perhaps are not ideologues. They can't defeat people in an actual debate where there's discussion and discourse and dialogue and there's a rational discussion where absurd moral equivalencies aren't made. So, and we see what's taking place. Now there's this emphasis on information. Information has never ended or negatively impacted anyone's life. If anything, a lack of information negatively impacts people. Filtered, and the information that's filtered through the sensibilities of liberal Democrats definitely negatively impacts people's lives. You need to be able to talk. I'm speaking in roundabout terms because we can't, speak about a lot of subjects. But information is processed by human beings, and generally human beings have a pretty good cost-benefit analysis or risk-reward ability to evaluate risk-reward or cost-benefit and can come to their own conclusions. But see, people on the left are petrified that if information is given to people or information is addressed or discussed or talked about that they think is wrong information or misguided or lacks context, which is another way of saying doesn't have the same viewpoint of their own, or doesn't reside within the same viewpoint of their own, they find this reprehensible. So they say, well, this information is hurting people. They can't tell you how many people. Neil Young can't tell you how many people have been harmed by, he can't tell you specifically. He can't give you a specific number of how many people have been harmed by Joe Rogan. But he will then make the hyperbolic, baseless claim that Joe Rogan is harming people. Interestingly enough, the people who he is assuming or insinuating or inferring have been harmed don't care what Neil Young thinks politically about anything. They would rather watch Joe Rogan, or they would rather vote for Donald Trump. It's so interesting how you have people on the left trying desperately to save Trump supporters or Joe Rogan viewers from, the scourge of bad data or information. It's like these people will never in a million years. A person who likes Rand Paul, for example, like I do, a person who used to be a Bernie Sanders supporter, like I was, a person who became a Trump supporter after being a Bernie Sanders supporter, will never look and say, gosh, I need to be saved by morally superior Democrats. That will never happen. I will never say, oh my God, I ruined my life because I didn't listen to CNN. It will never happen. It simply will never happen. So it's not really about saving society. Uranium Rabbit! Thanks, H.A. She will walk. They all will. Good to see you. Uranium Rabbit, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Greatly appreciated. To my super chat, thank you. I think that she'll run again. Uranium Rabbit, great name. I think that she'll run again. That's one way to kind of to get out of potential indictments from Durham. Uranium Rabbit, thank you so very, very, very much. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you, sir. Thank you. To my super chat, thank you so much. I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen, so I appreciate your support. The people who, you have this really pathetic viewpoint that, well, Russia interfered in our election. So, Facebook ads. Facebook ads, Facebook ads swung people's votes. It is your job as a political party to communicate the wonderful policies you're so proud of. Okay, we're experiencing Democratic Party policies now. Energy at record highs, energy costs at record highs. These are the wonderful Democratic policies. We're experiencing all of this now. But it's not like growing up and up until very recently, if you're in your mid 40s like I am, you're able to look at life before the internet and after the internet. If you're in your 35 or 30 or 25, you don't really know what life was like. Maybe 35 you kind of do, but you don't really know what life was like before the internet. Therefore, if you're 35, if you're younger than 35, you don't know what it was like to go into a restaurant without a cell phone, without any social media, just actually enjoying that moment eating with your friends, your family, or whatever. Maybe there was a big screen TV, maybe. Okay? But you lived that moment, and there were payphones, and you read newspapers, and whether it was a stock price, you looked at the financial section and looked at the stocks. If it was a baseball game, you looked at the box score in the newspaper. If you needed to do research, you went to the library. Okay? There was cable wasn't that important in people's lives. So you had to actually do your own research. And one thing you learned immediately, just growing up, one thing about life before the internet was that information was yours to evaluate, analyze, and nobody was going to assume that you were a gullible imbecile that couldn't possibly come to your own conclusions. Nobody was going to tell you how to think. Now, you had televangelists or whatever, you had the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, sure, but you had politics, sure. You had political divides, of course. But none of this nonsense like, oh, well, this rhetoric, this speech, this viewpoint is harmful. Nobody said that because they knew it's an arrogant viewpoint. That was an arrogant thing to say. It is such an arrogant, egotistical thing to say that another country is influencing you. You're obviously not agreeing with me because another country has influenced your impressionable, gullible brain, and you have no ability to think for yourself. This is a new mentality. This is a mentality fostered by an obsession a lot of people have with the internet, with social media, with acceptance. Also, in the 70s and 80s, rock and roll and punk rock and rap music and, people in the entertainment industry, well, I shouldn't say the entertainment industry, I should say like you had artists who actually, whether it was, Johnny Rotten and the Pistols or the Ramones or, you had people or Motorhead or you had people who Howard Stern, okay, before he realized that he could be completely erased from history at any moment because of his past. You had people who didn't care about what others thought of them. Howard Stern is a perfect example. Howard Stern is a perfect example of here. Howard Stern is a perfect example of where's Howard Stern? He's a perfect example of somebody this is a man who was a champion of free speech. Okay, this is a 1994 Rolling Stone cover. He was highly offensive but hilarious. Okay, and every single day for about 20 years, he would have been so offensive to today's, you know, to today's hyper emotional political climate, scene, activists, whatever. The every single day this man had the most hilarious. So I have to give him props. He was hilarious, but he pushed the envelope, and he would be viewed as offensive to pretty much no matter who you were on the planet. He probably said something to offend you, but he was fantastic and a champion of comedy and the First Amendment speech. The man is now petrified. The man is now petrified. He's everything that he's the antithesis of what he once was. Here's a man who was a champion. Here's a man who was in certain ways heroic. He was a comedy legend. He was a comedy icon. Every day, every morning, you would be smiling, you would be laughing in your car because you couldn't believe your ears. But now he's petrified. He's absolutely petrified. You realize that you could pick any random day from 1990 to 2004 to 2005. Any random day would get him canceled in today's completely backwards like culture, the political culture and climate we have. So he's petrified. He's frightened beyond belief. And that's why you see him kind of promoting, more of an establishment viewpoint on things. But see, this is what's happened. We went from Howard Stern of the 90s to Howard Stern of today. This man would never have had a career if he started today. And I got to give him props. He was an amazing legend, an amazing comedy icon, an amazing, like a groundbreaking radio personality. And he's now descended into somewhat of a, it's so sad and frightening that this man who was a legend turned himself into a has-been. Very wealthy, probably hundreds of millions of dollars, but he knows he could lose everything if the super sensitive, highly emotional among us decide to cancel him. Then his advertisers leave. Could you imagine? And he's a liberal Democrat, and he would be the liberal Democrats eating their own. He would be consumed. He would be consumed by his own political side because he didn't speak up, because he didn't have the courage that he once had 20 years ago, 30 years ago when he was starting off. And they would consume him and they would devour him, just like what they're doing to Whoopi Goldberg and Joe Rogan. Well, Whoopi Goldberg actually said something that was historically not only inaccurate, it was revisionist history. You didn't need to create a tape of things that she said out of context. And like I said, like Joe Rogan was wrong, and he apologized, and that's, you can't say the word, but there's nothing. Joe Rogan is single-handedly saving the First Amendment and democracy, if you ask me. Joe Rogan is like everything in a way that Howard Stern used to be, but Joe Rogan is not a shock personality. He doesn't. Joe Rogan is discusses and has conversations and like meaningful dialogue and debate and discussion, and it's a beautiful thing. That's why he will never, ever, ever be canceled. Because what Joe Rogan does is allow people to actually talk and have a discussion and civil, polite debate, discourse, something that our society can't stand now because the morally superior among us don't like to actually talk or debate because they lose those contests. That's why they have to redefine words. But you look at Howard Stern, and it's like at any moment. So Joe Rogan is saving democracy, and what happened to Howard Stern is a testament to where a society, like how much our society has been bullied into just accepting, the outrage of hyper-partisan, left-leaning advocates who want to just erase and cancel and silence any discussion or debate or discourse. And so now you have this man who used to be the most hilarious, provocative, entertaining, intriguing personality. And now he's been relegated to not even a shell of his former self. You could hear the fear from this man's voice. Like, as courageous and as powerful as he was, Howard Stern, he's now equally as frightened. He's like every day cowering to the outrage brigade. So whatever, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. He's petrified now. And that's what they do. That's what they do. You have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where the world has changed in many ways for the worse. You couldn't have, like, Mel Brooks. You couldn't have Mel Brooks today. You couldn't have Mel Brooks today. You couldn't have Don Rickles. You certainly couldn't have a young Howard Stern. And when Howard Stern, for example, was starting off, the reaction to his radio show was, if you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. Judith Gurian, thank you, Judith. JG, thank you. Judith Gurian, thank you, Judith. Thank you so much. Judith, thank you. To my super chat, thank you so much. Judith, thank you so very, very much. Judith Gurian, thank you. You can look at, like, what happened to Howard Stern's career is, Judith, thank you so very much. What happened to Howard Stern's career is a sad testament to what's happened to our society. We used to have a fun-loving, like, there was a place you could vacation to or escape to. and you could enjoy Don Rickles or Howard Stern or Mel Brooks or Sam Kinison, okay, or Andrew Dice Clay, or you could enjoy any type of comedy that was maybe pushing the envelope, okay? American Pie was a funny movie, hilarious movie. Now you can't even watch a movie on vampires. Do you understand? You can't watch a movie on vampires. Here, let's talk about here. What was it? Hold on. What was that movie? What's that movie? Hold on 1 second. The Twilight. Okay. Twilight. You can't even watch Twilight. You can't even watch Twilight. Hold on. Okay. Here are 10 problematic things from the Twilight saga. Are you serious? You can't even, but like you can make these accusations or critique of any movie. You could make the same critique of Harry Potter and endless movies. You can't even enjoy a movie on vampires. You can't even it's a movie about vampires. It's not a testament on society or a social statement. You can't even enjoy a movie about vampires. Ruining your okay. Everything. Reckoning with Twilight 10 years later. Vox. How about reckoning with your reckoning on Twilight? How about analyzing why you would try to analyze Twilight? What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? If you can't even enjoy a vampire movie. This morality is not even morality. It is like it is things are so equitable now. Things are so much better that you're trying to desperately find some reason to feel like you're conquering evil, or that you're this intrepid journalist or activist. Like you're so desperate to try to find some new fight that you're going after vampire movies. You can't even enjoy Twilight. Lord knows what they've done to Harry Potter. And every movie is a remake now, and the remakes don't work because you don't have a Thelma and Louise remake with two older men or middle-aged men. It doesn't work. Okay? You know why these remakes don't work? What was that movie? Yeah, sisterhood movie. Okay, hold on 1 second. Disturbing Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood. Okay. You know why remakes don't work now? Okay. Divine Secrets. You don't have a Divine Secrets of some kind of, it's not like you don't have remakes of movies like Thelma and Louise with two middle-aged men. It doesn't work. Because they want to go back in time. People want to go back in time. Okay? Maristella got her groove back. Okay. You don't have movies like how Cedric got his groove back. How Stella got her groove back. Okay. So this is a movie that is obviously, female empowerment, women, and there's a lot of Thelma and Louise, okay? You can't make a remake how Cedric or how Bob got his groove back. It's not going to work. Why? Because there's a moment in time that unfortunately left-leaning activists can't go back in time and like ruin. Okay, Thelma and Louise, 1991 film. Okay, about two very powerful women. Okay, right? Okay, you can't go back and remake it and try to put two, you know, you can't put Brad Pitt and whatever. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Instead of Thelma and Louise, you can't make Bob and Sam. I mean, it's just not going to work. They want to they're so desperate. The left is so desperate to just rewrite history. Nobody takes their rewrites seriously. They do it with comic books also. They're like, well, this is new and revamped. Like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You're not doing anything to help anybody. Okay? We already had like one of the best most amazing iconic characters is Sigourney Weaver in Aliens, okay? Okay? You didn't have to believe me. Believe me. This was the most like awesome, hardcore, amazing character. Okay? Nobody felt sorry for Sigourney Weaver in Aliens. Nobody did. Nobody was ever saying, watching the Aliens movies in the 80s, gee, hopefully 40 years from now, hopefully 30 years from now, we'll have this new morality that empowers people, which actually it doesn't. There are moments in time that you can't mess with. Okay, Ghostbusters, Aliens, these are moments that you just can't mess with. Anyway, getting back to Madam Secretary. They're all the people, look, this is all about Clinton running again. Let's just get back to, JG asked for a new picture, so we're gonna give a new picture. Okay, it's a beautiful picture, beautiful smile, very nice. This is all about a moment in time. You want to talk about remakes? You want to talk about Thelma and Louise becoming Bob and Sam or whatever? Or whatever. Hillary Clinton must run again. It has to happen because the country is still stuck in 2016. We have to have a conclusion finally. If Trump wins again, which I think that he would, although Clinton could win, you never know. But I think that President Trump, if he runs again, will win. He can't go up against anybody else but Hillary Clinton because mashed potato brains Biden isn't supposed to be. It's supposed to be Hillary. So there's like a certain very bizarre like extraterrestrials traveled in time, and it was supposed to be either Hillary and then Trump. But President Trump won. Like I said, he would defeat Clinton. And then there was this, oh my God, like angst and anger and frustration. And there has to be a rematch. But here, let's go ahead. Let's listen to Comey really quickly.
I wanted to make sure that I understood how important he thought it was, a totally appropriate call. And then the fourth call, I'm probably forgetting. I may have meant the call when he called to invite me to dinner. I'll think about it as I'm answering other questions, but I think I got that right.
Let's turn our attention to the underlying activity at issue here. Russia's hacking into those emails and releasing them, and the allegations of collusion. Do you believe Donald Trump colluded with Russia?
It's a question I don't think I should answer in an open setting. As I said, that we didn't. When I left, we did not have an investigation focused on President Trump.
So he basically says, I can't answer this in an open setting because, gosh, you know, it's such a heated, it's such a serious topic. It's such a serious topic. You know, this is such an important topic that, you know, I just can't talk about it. Don't you understand? I can't talk about it. It has to be within a different setting. You know? It's impossible. I just can't speak about it. I just can't speak about it. Ed from Queens! Remember Bob Grant and Barry Farber? I can't say that I do. Let me see. You know what? I probably would. So these are radio hosts. Barry Farber. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Ed from Queens. Thank you, Ed from Queens. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you, Ed from Queens. You know, I don't, but I do remember Ed, remember Tom Snyder? He was awesome. Tom Snyder was awesome. Ed from Queens. Tom Snyder was pretty awesome. Thank you, Ed. Thank you. So let's continue. Thank you so much, Ed.
But that's a question that'll be answered by the investigation, I think.
You don't investigate if you can't answer the question. So they asked him, do you have any evidence that Trump worked with Russia? And he's like, well, you know what? I didn't, but we're going to investigate. It's like, well, no, you don't investigate prior to obtaining evidence. There was never any evidence. That's why you have a Durham probe special counsel. That's why you have 3 people indicted. Now, I do think Hillary Clinton's going to run again. Ed from Queens. Those two made you look so... Ed from Queens. I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. Ed from Queens. Thank you. I am sure they did. They were probably... I'm sure they were amazing. I'm sure they were amazing. Ed from Queens, thank you so much. To my super chat. I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. JG, thank you. And so let's continue.
Return to a couple statements by my colleagues. Senator Feinstein. She was the ranking member on this committee until January, which means she had access to information that only she and Chairman Burr did. She's now the senior Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, meaning she has access to the FBI that most of us don't. On May 3rd, on CNN's Wolf Blitzer show, she was asked, do you have evidence that there was, in fact, collusion between Trump associates and Russia during the campaign? She answered, not at this time. On May 18th, at the same show, Mr. Blitzer said, the last time we spoke, Senator, I asked if you had actually seen any evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians, and you said to me, and I'm quoting you now, you said, not at this time. Has anything changed since we last spoke? Senator Feinstein said, well, no, it hasn't. Do you have any reason to doubt those statements?
I don't doubt that Senator Feinstein was saying what she understood. I just don't want to go down that path, first of all, because I'm not in the government anymore.
How beautiful is the doublespeak? I have no reason to doubt what she understood. I have no reason to doubt what she understood. Not, I disagree with her. Not, oh, well, you know what? There is no evidence because she was saying there was no evidence. And for example, the question was whether or not there was evidence of any collusion. And Feinstein was saying there was no evidence. So the question actually was not whether he agrees or whether he doubts what she believes to be accurate. If you're not gonna, this is all like a philosophy of language course with these people. It's so hilarious too. He wasn't being asked if his opinion of Dianne Feinstein's ability to think or evaluate information. He was being asked if he had any information to refute Dianne Feinstein's claim that there was evidence. Of course, he is in the most Orwellian of, answers, trying to circumvent what took place. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you get kicked off, just log back on because for some reason, I had like over 500 plus people. God, always happens. So, yeah, just let's log back on, everybody. Log back on.
And answering in the negative, I just worry leads me deeper and deeper into talking about the investigation in an open setting. I want to be, I'm always trying to be fair. I don't want to be unfair to President Trump. I'm not trying to suggest by my answer something nefarious, but I don't want to get into the business of saying not as to this person, not as to that person.
On February 14th, the New York Times published a story, the headline of which was Trump campaign aides had repeated contacts with Russian intelligence. You were asked earlier if that was an inaccurate story, and you said in the main. Would it be fair to characterize that story as almost entirely wrong?
Yes.
Did you have...
So he actually says that a New York Times story was practically entirely wrong. Practically entirely wrong. The New York Times story was practically entirely wrong. And so he's just continuing. See, what they did was they had nothing on Trump. They had nothing on Trump. So they had to create this fantasy world. They had nothing, so they created a fantasy world. And they did this with the help of media. Wizard X, is it me? Or Ron comes off as establishment. Ron DeSantis? I like Ron DeSantis. I think that he's probably, no, I don't think, I think Ted Cruz is establishment. Wizard X, thank you. Let's go ahead. Let's see. Let's really do Hillary again. By the way, really quickly, really quickly. So hold on one second. You look at oil prices. Oil prices today. Check this out. Brent crude is almost $96. Okay? WTI crude is almost $95. Oil is almost at $100 a barrel. So tell me, ladies and gentlemen, how you can go ahead and fight inflation if oil is over $100 a barrel. How is that possible? How is that possible? How is that possible when you have energy costs that are rising? Oh, by the way, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. How is that possible? You have oil prices at $100 a barrel, inflation at 7.5%. It's obviously more. Then you have consumer sentiment. Consumer sentiment falls to worst level in decade. So you have consumer sentiment falling to the worst level in a decade. I mean, every margin debt at close to $1 trillion. The stock market is at an all-time high, but the fundamentals in the economy are terrible. Consumer sentiment low, inflation rampant. I mean, with Trump, we didn't have runaway inflation. Ukraine wasn't being invaded by Russia. We didn't have the crime and the homelessness that we have. Tell me how life is better. Because he's not tweeting? That's really what it comes down to. That's really what it comes down to. That's what they care about. Consumer sentiment falls to worst level in a decade. How on earth are you going to how on earth are you going to have the economy rebound when oil is going to go way past $100 a barrel? Inflation is not going to. You have interest rate hikes. Just really quickly. So anywhere from 5 to 7 interest rate increases. Now, if they go 5 times, they're definitely not going to even touch inflation. If they go 5 times, they're definitely not even going to touch inflation. Okay? So they're not even going to get close. They're not even going to get close to addressing inflation if the Fed only increases interest rates 5 times. And if they don't start with 50 basis points in March, I mean, who knows? If they do 50 basis points as opposed to 25 basis points, maybe they could get possibly a handle on inflation. But who knows? The market will tank. The stock market will tank with inflation, and it'll tank with interest rate hikes. No matter what they do, the market is going to collapse. And everyone knows this. Now, let's just see. Hold on. This is debunked. Debunked, despite, right? You know, recession is not looming in 2022. What do you mean debunked? Elon Musk and others. So there was an interesting stat that I'm looking for, but you have fossil fuels at all-time highs, which is exactly the antithesis of what climate change activists wanted. I mean, Russia, Ukraine, that's, you know, UK and US warn Putin faces crisis. So it's like, as intelligence shows, oh my God, they're going to ratchet things up. So this is getting worse and worse. This is happening under Biden. So what does the Kremlin have on Biden? In terms of foreign policy, it's worse than expected. We have a worse than expected foreign policy. Our economy is heading into recession with a 2 to 3,000 point stock market crash looming, and we're seeing a slow motion stock market crash. And like, tell me how anything is better now. Tell me how is anything better, ladies and gentlemen? Is anything better? I mean, is anything better? Let's see here. Russian units near Ukraine moved into, okay, U.S. official says, position. So, I mean, this is just terrible. If God forbid okay, media will not ever ask why this is taking place under mashed potato brains Biden. Nobody will ask why this is taking place under mashed potato brains Biden when his son was working for an energy company linked to corruption in that country. Yet Trump is compromised. So how does this happen under Biden's tenure? It didn't happen with Trump. We didn't have an economy in the toilet with Trump. We didn't have these geopolitical catastrophes with Trump. But we did have them we're seeing them now. I mean, how does this help inflation? I mean, oil prices are going to get to well over $100. They will break all-time highs. That's my prediction. I'm telling you, it's going to take place. Consumer sentiment is at a decade low. Supply chain breakdown the supply chain is not going to be helped by all of this. Okay? So, I mean, like, how on earth is any of this? The adults are supposed to be in charge, right? You heard this. The adults are supposed to be in charge. And they keep on, like, NATO keeps on, there's this mentality, and I have no clue, like, this mentality, like, oh, well, we have to show Putin our resolve. Well, but he has nuclear weapons. So he's not going to alter his strategy at all. NATO could send more Americans. First of all, why Biden sent 5,000 Americans to Eastern Europe? I have no clue. Those Americans should be home with their families, or at least in the United States. And God bless the veterans, and God bless the soldiers of the United States military. Yet again, Biden is yet again leading us into a very precarious situation. He already botched the Doha Agreement. Those 13 Americans should be alive today. That was 100% mashed potato brains Biden's fault. It was 100% his fault. And those 100 Afghans should be alive today. I mean, we already saw what he's capable of. Now you have nuclear weapons and nuclear annihilation, which is a possibility. Here, I mean, you can look. Putin reminds everyone that Ukraine joining NATO could lead to nuclear war. So, I mean, this whole thing, like the February 16th, like, oh, it's going to happen on February. Like, what is the point of picking a date? Like, how does that hurt? Biden or media or our intelligence agencies picking a date, how on earth does that bother or intimidate or deter Putin in any way? What is the point of that? Aside from being petulant. If you want to help Ukraine, then tell President Zelensky and tell their government. What's the point of publicizing that? So you traumatize the planet even further? What's the point? And then, of course, the New Yorker here, going, against the clock to prevent war. It's like, no, this is the West at fault. This is not. I mean, Putin and Russia. I don't agree with. I don't want them to invade Ukraine. And God bless the Ukrainian people. But I don't want that to take place. But everybody knew that the more NATO and Western countries pushed for Ukraine to become part of NATO, the greater the chance that this would happen. Okay. So Vladimir Putin inserts crazy, oh God, threat of nuclear war into Ukraine diplomacy. So here. Will there be a nuclear war? Horror simulation shows what happened if Russia. So Ukraine crisis miscalculation could begin unintended wider conflict. Yeah. That's what I've been saying for weeks now. And they all have tactical nuclear armament as well. Tactical, meaning on the battlefield, not just the ICBMs or. So, I mean, do you think this helps? Do you think this helps the, you think this helps with inflation or the economy? I mean, we have so many things taking place all at once. but at least Trump is not tweeting, "Look, I told you." You could type in, like, it's very difficult if I type in nuclear war, or like, you can kind of get articles here and there, but here, Trump. Hold on. Let's just type in. Here, look. Oh my God, horrifying officials prepped for Trump. Oh, horrified. Here, Trump, outrage, Trump. Just type in outrage, Trump. Aimed at outrage. Trump's ultimate outrage. Express outrage here. So hold on one second. Here. Democrats in fury. Democrats are furious. Here, hold on. The walls are closing in. JG. Hold on one second here. Walls closing in. The walls are closing in. The walls are closing in. The walls are closing in on Donald Trump. 2021. The walls are closing in on Trump. The walls are closing in on Donald Trump. The walls are closing in. Numbers don't lie. The walls are closing in on defying Trump. How many walls does this man have around him? The walls are closing in on Trump. One of these days, we're going to find out that Jimmy Kimmel had a little bit more to do with. He had a lot more going on than just being an entertainer. Almost certainly we'll find out. The walls are closing in on Trump. The walls are probably not closing in. Oh, we found one. The walls are probably not closing in. Maybe they're closing in, maybe they're not. The walls are closing in on Trump. Mary Trump says the walls are closing in. The walls are closing in. This time for real. This is the best. Oh my God, this is the best one. The walls are closing in. This is for real this time. You thought the walls were closing in before. You have no idea. You have no clue. You have no clue. What? The walls are closing for Mock for repeatedly claiming. This is hilarious. The walls are closing in. The impeachment walls are closing in. Everything's always closing in. For reals this time. You have no clue how closing they're in. How walls are closing. No clue. No understanding. This time it's for real. Oh my God. It doesn't end. So, I mean, you can find a million. So hold on. Here, so hold on. Democrats. I mean, the reason I'm doing this, you could find so much on Trump, but Ukraine and Russia, it's like this more subdued coverage, even though it is. You could find sensationalized coverage with Trump. It won't take long. It won't take long to find sensationalized coverage. Exactly. Caroline, exactly. So I mean, stop, listen, think. Exactly. So Russia accelerates troop buildup, so it looks like it's probably going to happen. They might actually be going on the 15th. Putin will be like, you see, it wasn't the 16th, it was 15. Stop. Russia sending troops, equipment closer to Ukraine. So the more this unfortunately takes place, they're unfortunately, I mean, it's terrible, but we put Ukraine in this situation. NATO put Ukraine in this situation. If there was no NATO, this wouldn't be an issue. You know, we learned from World War I, military alliances or alliances of this nature, it's not a good thing, especially with nuclear weapons. It's a very bad thing. Very bad thing. So, hold on one second. It's Article 5 of NATO, the collective defense. Very bad. Very bad. This could easily cause nuclear annihilation. The principle of collective defense is at the very heart of NATO's founding treaty. Well, why do we even need that now? The Warsaw Pact is done, and there is no Cold War. So why do you need NATO? It remains a unique and enduring principle that binds its members. An attack on an ally is considered an attack against all allies. That's exactly what happened in World War I. So you're dealing with nuclear arsenals also. Okay. And so what happens? So what does NATO do if is there a nuclear confrontation? Because NATO doesn't control nuclear responses of countries. You know, it does not make us stronger. The more you look at NATO, like it took me a long time because I was programmed to just, oh, NATO, great, fantastic. But the more you think about it, it's like, well, every country has its own defense budget. Our defense budget is greater than the next 9 countries combined. So why do you need this alliance? Russia is not going to invade Poland. And Poland has a very good military. So does Romania. They both have excellent militaries. So then what's the point of NATO? What is the point of, like, what is the point of trying desperately to ensure that Russia what's the point of expanding NATO knowing very well that Russia still has more nuclear weapons than even the United States? And at the end of the day, they're not going to, he's not going to be deterred or intimidated because he has nuclear weapons, just like we wouldn't be we wouldn't be if Russia or China said, no, you can't do that, US. We wouldn't be deterred. We wouldn't be intimidated. We would continue with our own foreign policy like we have. And interesting from the coverage of all of this, the coverage is from the vantage point that, well, of course NATO is perfect. There's no need at all to criticize the alliance or criticize Western countries. It's only Russia's fault. Which, yes, it's horrible that they're invading Ukraine, but we knew that this was a possibility when for years we said, "Oh yeah, Ukraine should join NATO." So it's like, how does this benefit the world? We saw in Libya completely destabilizing an entire region of the world with a NATO intervention. So God forbid they start the invasion, and you then have, like, you then have Biden and NATO do what? Because what they're doing is they're reinforcing Eastern Europe, countries that in Eastern Europe, they're reinforcing, they're sending soldiers, American soldiers, and tanks and weaponry and aircraft. And for what purpose? Because why on earth would Russia care about all this armament moving into Eastern Europe? They're only invading Ukraine. What is the point aside from public relations? What are you going to do to deter Putin? You're not going to deter Putin at all. Or they have a specific military objective. They have a very specific goal, which is to prevent Ukraine from becoming part of NATO. And it's terrible what NATO and Biden did, trying to convince the world that they would allow Ukraine into NATO, knowing very well that they had no intention of doing so. So, I mean, what's the point here? What is the point here? What on earth is what can you what is the point of what on earth is the point of reinforce? So here you have NATO in Eastern Europe. Like, West prepares to sharpen Eastern defenses. What do you mean? Why? For public relations? So you feel you're doing something while at the same time increasing the odds of ICBMs and a nuclear confrontation or nuclear annihilation or mutually assured destruction? What's the point? What are you doing? See, Biden has no specific objective. Mashed potato brains and bumbling Blinken and Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, who pushed the phony fake Alpha Bank nonsense with a server that was, now we're seeing the Durham probe expand, and indictments, like I said, are imminent and they're going to take place, just like John Ratcliffe predicted today. What is the U.S. objective here? Here. NATO allies send more ships, jets to enhance deterrence and defense in Eastern Europe. What are you deterring? Nobody has ever even accused Russia of actually wanting to invade any country in Eastern Europe. They're not going to invade Romania or Poland. They're not going to invade any other country. They have one specific objective: to prevent Ukraine from becoming part of NATO. That's the reason the alliance exists. The reason we're having all of these problems is because NATO and Europe and the US and Biden said, "Oh yeah, you can join," knowing very well they wouldn't. They're not going to allow. So we shut down economic activity because the morally superior, highly educated among us said it's going to be for our safety. Now we have an economic catastrophe. Now they're going to trump Russia foreign policy with sending more ships and jets to enhance deterrence. You're not deterring him from doing anything. What is the objective? There's no specific objective. There's no specific objective. West prepares to sharpen Eastern defenses. Defenses from what? They're not going to invade any other country. So what are you sharpening? Here's where alliance forces are deployed across Eastern Europe. CNN. Why are they deployed across Eastern Europe? What is the point of this? Because they forgot that media has completely overlooked the fact that Russia has nuclear weapons. Completely overlooked that fact. So what on earth? There is no stop, listen, think. Thank you. Janet McGuffey, so kind of you, Janet. Thank you so much. I mean, thank you so much always for your support, Janet. So kind of you. I mean, it's like every live stream. Thank you. I can't thank you enough. Janet McGuffey, thank you so much. Thank you, Janet. Thank you so very, very, very much. Janet, everybody here, what's the point of increasing troop movement and aircraft and tanks and armament and weaponry to Eastern Europe? They're not going to invade any other country. So what's the point? What is the military and political objective? Aside from mutually assured destruction, aside from, global warming within a week or within a day. Janet, thank you so much. So kind of you. I hope all is well. Thank you, Janet. S23, hello. Janet, thank you again. So kind of you. So here, Germany and UK say send hundreds of extra soldiers to NATO's eastern flank. Well, Russia is not going to invade NATO's eastern flank. So what's the point? Is there another country in Europe Russia is going to invade at the moment? Aside from public relations and escalating tensions and putting the world at the brink of nuclear annihilation, because once all Putin has to do to tank global economies is, you know what? You want to escalate this. We have nuclear weapons, and and all he has to say, God forbid, is if you continue, we're going to potentially retaliate in this manner. And then, oh my God, you can open the floodgates of, understandable paranoia. Not even paranoia, like absolute people being frightened. All he has to do, see, we're at what, DEFCON 4 now? If it gets to DEFCON 3 or DEFCON 2, That's the Cuban Missile Crisis. So you were at the brink of nuclear annihilation. This is morally superior liberal Democrats got us to this point. They tanked the economy. They traumatized everyone in media in the world with you know what. They tanked economies, and now they're getting us into a nuclear confrontation where we risk annihilation. Janet, thank you so very much again. What is the military objective and the political objective? How do you define victory if you're NATO at this point? Because you can define victory if you are Russia. You can also define victory if you're Ukraine if it doesn't happen. That would be a great thing if this invasion does not happen. But what is your goal, NATO? So you want to deter the invasion by, this is what's his name, Stoltenberg said. Lord. Okay, so so here, more NATO troops headed to Eastern Europe. And you have to understand something, like you can go to AOC's here, AOC. Let's look at what, like, is she talking about anything that has to do with possible? No, it's nothing. Nothing to do with climate action, climate change. Okay? Fossil fuels, which, by the way, Democrats have, caused to become all-time highs. Fossil fuels. Look at Bernie Sanders. Bernard Sanders. What is he talking about? Is he talking about possible nuclear confrontation? Is he talking about any of this here? So then this is like his political party caused this. Listen to this. According to a new study, if income for the bottom 90% of this country grew at the same rate it did overall, as did overall growth since 1975, workers would have an additional $47 trillion. When we talked about a rigged economy, that's exactly what we're talking about. Bernie, you pushed to end economic activity. Now we have, along with Pelosi, along with media, along with bureaucrats, now we have every single economic problem, from inflation to consumer sentiment to oil prices being at all-time highs to margin debt in the stock market to derivatives trades, very likely tanking hedge funds. I mean, he's a good human being, Bernie Sanders, but all he does is complain. It's like a racket. All he does is complain. He doesn't do anything else but complain. He just goes along with every Democratic Party policy, pushes to investigate Trump after he was cheated, and they're not talking about anything. Like, they're completely clueless and oblivious. They're completely oblivious. They're completely oblivious. With 6,257, Russia has 6,257 nukes. We have 5,550. So please tell me how they're going to be deterred with anything NATO does. You could add the UK and France to NATO, and it's still, well, let's see, would it be? No, you still wouldn't. You still wouldn't have as many nuclear weapons as Russia has. You still wouldn't have as many nukes as Russia has. So what are they doing? They're not going to be, and then you have 30 to 40% of oil and gas. 30 to 40% of Russian oil and gas. 30 to 40% of Russian oil and gas. They supply Europe with 30 to 40% of oil and gas. So how are they going to be deterred? They have a specific military objective, a very specific military and political objective. They want to prevent Ukraine from becoming part of NATO. NATO has no specific military objective. I guess it would be if Russia didn't invade, but Russia not invading would be the result of negotiations with Ukraine. It wouldn't be the result of fear of any NATO, retaliation. I mean, this is a very simple calculus. We learned this during the Cold War. That's why, you have a lot of people, most of media now, most journalists don't remember the Cold War. They don't remember. Robbie, hello. Thank you, Janet. Most journalists don't remember what it was like before cell phones and internet and Facebook. And they don't remember what it was like, most journalists do not remember what it was like during the Cold War, when there was mutually assured destruction at any moment. And so you would have proxy wars in Vietnam and Afghanistan with the Soviets, but you would never directly confront. The US and USSR would never directly confront one another with a direct military engagement. The only time that did happen was, during the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was a blockade. And then we were on the brink of annihilation. But it makes no sense. Let's look at this is what's so hilarious. They have mashed potato brains on the cover. I am wondering if Trump was ever on the cover. He should have been. We were a safer world and a safer country under Trump. No doubt. No doubt. This didn't happen under Trump. And was he a pacifist? No. That was one of the critiques from H.A. Goodman said he didn't like Clinton, so Trump. It's like, well, he's not. He's opposed by the Lincoln Project. What's there not to like? Let's see. So, I mean, right here, U.S. isn't ready for nuclear rivalry. This is hilarious. The Washington Post, right here. The threat of nuclear conflict is high. We need a new commitment to de-escalation. Oh, really? Okay. Then why is NATO sending like when NATO and the U.S. and under President Obama destroyed Libya, or under Bush when we went into Iraq, Afghanistan, there was nothing that Russia or China could do. Even if they opposed it, there was nothing that they could do. And so, but when they engage in a military, I mean, I don't want them to invade Ukraine, but that's really the fault of NATO and the U.S. But when they engage in their own military objectives, suddenly NATO is right there. And by the way, President Obama handled this better than Biden. Even Bush did, the worst president of all time with Georgia. The way to handle it is not to do anything and to try to negotiate. And if you want to impose sanctions, fine. Not that they care. But this, you're not deterring anybody. You're not preventing anything. You are escalating tensions to a point where they can say, look, if you continue, we are going to then start weighing the options in terms of a nuclear response. Then it spirals. Then you have, we're already, in terms of the economy, almost at the point where 2,000 to 3,000 points drop in the Dow. The stock market crash I predicted is taking place. It's going to happen. It was going to happen with or without Russia and Ukraine. This problem. This potential invasion. Now imagine, you couldn't envision, you couldn't predict, ladies and gentlemen, something like this is the worst possible scenario, and it's only going to get worse. President Obama, Bush, definitely Trump would have been a million times better than Biden, but President Obama and Bush had a better response. Russia invaded Georgia, they invaded Crimea under Bush and Obama. And both those presidents had a better response than mashed potato brains Biden. What's the point now of what they're doing? It makes no sense at all. It makes absolutely no sense at all. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, ladies and gentlemen? Can you hear me now, ladies and gentlemen? Haha, JG. All right, good. So you look, and it's like what President Obama and what Bush did, and what Trump would have already negotiated a deal that would have angered NATO, but would have been better for the world. Where was Biden? Where was Biden negotiating a deal? Where was he negotiating a deal the past couple weeks? How about he wasn't anywhere doing so? How difficult was it to just meet with Putin and President Zelensky and try to negotiate a deal? Just calling people on the phone. Every time he calls somebody on the phone, something tragic happens. Every time, all he does is call people on the phone. Let's see. So this is hilarious. Okay, we can't read that. Okay. It's I mean, really, Dow Jones Futures is pretty meaningless. It's pretty meaningless. You don't know anything from the futures. Okay, look, check this out. This is going to get back to, oh Lord, it keeps on messing up again. If you look, it's been at 35, 34, 35 for 6 months. It was at 36. Now, March 4th, last March, it was at 30. We're probably going to get below 30 this coming March. We'll probably get below 30,000 in the Dow. Now, you look and they don't, nobody ever says, hey, by the way, it's going to go way down and then just flatline and, trade sideways forever or for the next 10 years. Because the 70s here, the 70s, the Dow didn't do anything. So, let's see. It was below 34,000 one day, a couple weeks back. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. To my super chat, Janet, everybody here, thank you. What a great, great, great live stream. Thank you so much. And Robbie D, thank you so very much. Everybody here, thank you. JG, Luke, Eric, Luke, thank you again. Eric, thank you as always. I'll be here tomorrow again. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. Ladies and gentlemen, every single thing that could possibly go wrong is taking place. And unfortunately, it's only going to get worse. That's why I say focus on your life, love, happiness, success, laughter, joy, and take care of yourself. Save money, as much money as possible, as I beg for Super Chat every month. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe. We are almost at 193,000. We're almost at 200,000 people. Thanks, everybody. God bless. To my Super Chat, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Be here again tomorrow at around 8:30 p.m. Pacific.